When Daniel was captured from Judah by Nebuchadnezzar, he was just a young boy, probably only 14 years old. But as time passed and he grew, different kings changed. In fact, empires changed. But Daniel was still very wise, and they kept Daniel as the wise man. And at this time, Daniel is working for the king of Persia as his top wise man. And that meant that he knew not just about the stars, that meant that he knew about everything. And Daniel worshiped God. Now, he was a Jew, and the rest of the wise men in Persia were as jealous as they could be. They didn't like Daniel. They didn't think Daniel ought to be the wise man over them because he was a Jew. And so they thought, okay, what can we do to get Daniel in trouble? Well, they watched him, and he didn't do anything wrong. And finally, one of them said, you know what? The only thing Daniel does that's wrong is he gets down on his knees all the time and faces Jerusalem and prays to his God. Now, what we need to do is go to Darius and we'll brag on him, the king of Persia, and we'll tell him how wonderful he is and that everybody ought to have at least a month or two when they don't worship anybody but him. Now, that's kind of silly. I mean, to just worship him for a month, what good is that? But they went to the king of Persia, and they said to the king of Persia, King of Persia, you are a mighty man. You are highly respected in the kingdom. Everyone knows how wise you are, and we think you deserve praise. So we want you to sign a decree that everybody in the kingdom will worship no other God but you for at least a month. And silly Darius, the king, was just dumb enough to fall for that, and he signed it. Well, when Daniel read it, Daniel's a Jew who worships God, and God has said, don't worship anything but God. No other gods before you. Nobody before my name. And Daniel knows that. And he isn't about to worship the king of the Persians, to worship Darius. And so they know, the other wise men know that too, so they watch him. They slip up behind there. Daniel left his door open so they could see him. And he got down on his knees just like he always did, and he prayed toward Jerusalem to the only true God. And when they saw him, they said, gotcha. And they grabbed him and they took him to the king and they said, Darius, your top wise man has been found breaking your law. He's been bowing and praying to his God. And Darius was sick, just sick. Because the paper they had gotten him to sign said that if you don't worship just Darius, if you're caught worshiping any other god, you get thrown to the lion's den. And that was a great big pit with hungry lions in it, and there wouldn't be left of anybody that was thrown in it for very long. Well, Darius was sick. He loved Daniel. They were buddies. He didn't want to throw Daniel in the lion's den, and he realized, oh, I fell for those silly men bragging on me. And so he got out the books and he searched for some way not to have to throw Daniel in the lion's den, but there wasn't anything he could do. And he brought Daniel in and he said, Daniel, I've done a really dumb thing. Daniel said, yes, I know you have, friend, but you've got to do it. Because that's what you said, and your word won't be worth anything if you don't do what you said you were going to do. But Darius said, Daniel, if I throw you in the lion's den, will your God save you? And Daniel said, well, my God is able to save me if he wants to, but he may not want to. And if he wants to let the lions eat me up, then that's just the way it'll have to be. Oh, Darius said, I'm just sick. Well, they tied Daniel up, and they threw him in the den of lions, and the wise men went back, we got him, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. And the king paced the floor all night long, wondering what was going to happen to Daniel. Well, when they threw Daniel in the lion's den, the lions became pussycats, and Daniel found their mouths were clamped shut because God had shut the lions' mouths. And if they couldn't open their teeth to bite him, they can't eat him. And they just lay down and went to sleep. And he spent the night not with lions, but with pussycats. And early the next morning, Darius ran to the den, and he hollered down, and he said, Daniel, are you in there? Are you safe? Yes, King Darius, I'm fine. Well, how is that possible? What's happened to the lions? Well, they're dying on the floor asleep. They're just like pussycats. Their jaws have been clamped shut. Oh my goodness, Darius said, get him out of there. And they pulled Daniel out, and he said, now take those men that made me fall for that silly stunt and throw them in the lion's den. And of course, when they did, the lions were not pussycats any longer. They became lions. Now, sometimes it's not easy to do what you know is right, but you must always do what you know is right, regardless of what the people around you think about it. It may mean you'll lose some friends. Maybe the boy next door won't want to come and play anymore because you won't watch the kind of television programs he's allowed to watch. Maybe the little girl that's in school with you won't come over and spend the night at your house anymore because she knows she's going to have to listen to a Bible story and say her prayers. You may lose some friends, but you remember to always do what's right.